sports card trimming widely believed to be pretty taboo in the sports card space, is it starting to become more acceptable?
Silence, you furry fool! I've had it with your whining and bumbling.
A topic that we are going to dive into today, my friends. Stick around. My sports card friends, it's another day, another card video. Hope that you all are doing amazingly well. How we doing, guys? We're going to talk about card trimming today, but first we are going to give thanks to our video sponsor, COMC.com, your home for buying, selling, and flipping all the hottest trading cards. Their consignment marketplace, home to over 31 million cards from baseball's biggest stars like Shohei Ohtani, Aaron Judge, and Mookie Betts, to Marvel favorites like Spider-Man, Thor, and Captain America. COMC has something for every type of collector, so make sure to visit COMC.com today to build out your collection with your favorite cards. All right, so it's no secret that card trimming is a thing in the sports card, non-sports culture cards hobby. It's just here. We don't know where it is. We know that it's lurking around, but one video that came out that was pretty shocking, to be honest. It came through Evan Mathis's IG account, kind of a tutorial, if you will. I think the full tutorial was on TikTok and like half of it was on IG. I caught the first half on IG where basically he was using a magic eraser to get a piece, get something off of the surface of a card. And he was talking about vintage cards in particular. But in the comment section, there was also reference to a 1990 Frank Thomas rookie card as well, where he got a PSA 10. It was just kind of shocking to see it so just put out there like, so what? So it begs the question, is this a big so what? Is this a nothing burger, as they would say? I think a lot of people would probably say that it's not a nothing burger. I mean, the fact that, people pay an exorbitant amount of money to have a PSA 10 or an SGC 10 or BGS 10 or whatever it is, and not even just vintage cards, but modern cards as well. I mean, technically the Frank Thomas card from 1990 is not a vintage card. And we've seen Trey Lance cards, autos, it was like a year and a half ago that were in PSA Slabs where they found out that they were trimmed. There's most likely trim cards with every single grading company. It's just the way that it goes. They're not going to catch everything that comes through. And look, I mean, by the way the video was done, they have this thing down to a science, a lot of these guys. So I know the pushback is going to be, well, the grading company should be able to catch this. Well, I mean, if they're that good at it, if they're taking like 1/100th of a piece of cardboard off of the side of it, and they're doing it extremely methodically, it's very, very difficult, I would think, to be able to figure this out, to be able to catch it. I'm sure they've got different ways to catch certain things. Obviously, I mean, Nat Turner bought a green numbered out of 10 PMG Michael Jordan card going back a few years now. It was in a altered slab for $350,000 or $400,000 is what he paid for it at the time. Now, I think that kind of raises a good point, though, here, where I think the big question marks are going to come around vintage cards that are more widely available. The reason why this is tricky for vintage cards is because at least with like that PMG, it's numbered to 10, so that there are only 10 of those. And even if it's altered, even if it's cut in half or whatever, there's only 10 of those. So it carries that value. The condition, yeah, I mean, if it was in a 10 holder, yes, maybe it's worth more than the altered holder, but there's still only 10 of them. So there's just not that many. But with vintage, that's where we run into a little bit of a problem, and with a lot of modern cards too, but specifically vintage stuff, especially if you go to the National, it's everywhere. It's not as if, these rookie cards are rare. I'll throw out an example of a card, that I bought fairly recently this year, a Bart Starr, and it's in an SGC4 case. I like the centering on it. I like the colors and everything. But that was a big reason why, outside of the fact that I don't have six figures to buy that card in an 8 or a 9, that Star rookie card, but it almost works out fine because I would rather have a little bit of a rounded corner and know that it wasn't trimmed than risk finding out down the road that it was trimmed. Oh, this was attached to a submission from this person going back 10 years. That's a card that was trimmed. What if that happens? What if, you spent $50,000, you worked your way up to get into that giant vintage card, and it pops out like that. That's everybody's worst nightmare. Big question mark is how many cards, did this group and others, how many have they touched? Because the problem here is, look, if we're talking about like 0.0001% of the market, then yeah, maybe they're out there, but they're out there and you just have to accept it. Kind of like with fake cards, they're out there, but it represents a very small amount of the market. The problem is when you have this pop up and then you have kind of a training manual as to how to do it, it then begs the question of how many cards did these guys handle and trim, and then people that might have learned off of them, etc. Obviously, they're putting out the tutorial, recently, but it's not as if they just learned how to do it. This is something that has been around. So how many people are doing it? How many cards are affected? And how many cards make it into graded holders? So it just opens up a huge can of worms. The grading companies are not going to want to tackle it because, again, it's like that endless rabbit hole, and it's going to be really tricky to figure out what's what. And I think it goes back to, when you are buying collectibles, first off, knowing what you're getting into, one, but two, I think it shines a light on the importance of really scarce stuff. If we are looking at even, vintage cards or 80s cards, I'll just throw Joe Montana rookie card. Let's just throw that one out there as an example. I have this card in a PSA 8, but it was a widely produced card. That's not a rare card at all. It's one of my goals. I think it would be awesome to have that card in a 9. A 10 would be unbelievable. But again, when you see stuff like this, it's like, but, if there's only, let's say, 100 of those PSA 10 Montanas, were any of those trimmed? Were like 30 of them trimmed? Were two of them trimmed to get that 10? It just raises questions. And then for big pockets that are coming in that are buying, as they become more aware of these types of tactics, are they likely to buy in, or does it not even matter? Or for the buyers, does it not matter because, it's been authenticated by PSA or BGS or SGC or whoever, they put their stamp of approval on it. And so it's like, hey, if it was, it was. I guess it just depends on the buyer. But again, I have to assume that someone that's paying, $80, $90, $100,000 for a PSA 10 Joe Montana rookie card, if they knew that it had been altered or adjusted to get to 10, the belief is that you got that amazing copy that came out of the pack and somehow it was preserved, in a, perfect shoebox, somewhere in an attic, and it remained its perfect self. And you got that graded and it worked out to where you got a perfect copy of it. I think that most people that are paying the huge money, they assume that to be the case, which makes this so difficult. The other thing I thought was interesting is the comment section on this stuff was basically, you would think the comment section would be riddled with, what the hell, or oh my God, or I can't believe you did that, or I can't believe people are doing this. And it wasn't. It was not. There was a couple maybe, but there was a lot more that were just kind of like, cool, or awesome, or you the man, or whatever. I don't know. It makes me kind of just wonder. I do have a little bit of a tease. I spent the most money I've ever spent on a collectible here recently. I'm going to make a video about it next week, putting that all together, kind of putting together the whole bit of how I got to the decision to buy this particular card. But I think actually just based on kind of this news, it makes me feel better about this particular card that I bought, this collectible that I bought. And again, it's the most money I've ever spent on a collectible, but I'll explain it all here next week in a video that will be coming up. Oh, let's round out the video with Raleigh Card Show. So I took my son to the Raleigh Card Show. They had it in a different building, same location, North Carolina Fairgrounds, and it was really awesome. I love the location. It's in kind of like a dome, almost like a high school gymnasium style building. It had windows all the way around it. I'll see if I can throw up a clip. Whoa, this is actually really cool inside the dome. Very cool. We had a blast. We did our usual thing. He picked out 20 Pokemon cards. We always find the dollar bin for Pokemon cards, so it's 20 Pokemon cards for $20. That's the deal. He found a bunch that he didn't have, so it was a good time. For those that I did see there, thank you very much for coming up and introducing yourself. Larry, in particular, Larry! I appreciate you guys and all your support. All right, stay healthy, stay awesome, and I will talk to you again later.